Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. The last game of Week 16 is Monday Night Football with San Francisco and Indianapolis, so let's jump right into the data. Looking at our matchup and team data, you have San Francisco favored on the money line with a spread of 5.5 and a total line of 46.5. Down here is your team seasonal averages if you need them, and we'll quickly go through the rankings, with San Francisco with a mixed offense with a scoring rank of 10, a passing rank of 4, and a rushing rank of 24, as well as a tight end rank of 9. Defensively, it's probably a little worse, with an allowed scoring rank of 11, allowed passing rank of 22, an allowed rushing rank of 13, and allowed tight end rank of 21. For Indianapolis, you have a pretty good offense with a scoring rank of 6, passing rank of 8, and a rushing rank of 5. And defensively, it's a little bit more mixed with an allowed scoring rank of 13, allowed passing rank of 32, and an allowed rushing rank of 9. For your quarterbacks, you have Brock Purdy, and with Daniel Jones being out, you have Phillip Rivers, with Brock Purdy averaging 17.4 fantasy points per game, and Rivers having just 6.8 in his first game. We won't change Rivers' numbers because he's only had one game, but here's the averages for Brock Purdy. And looking at their turnovers, you have Brock Purdy with 7 interceptions and 2 fumbles lost due to sacks. And in Rivers' one game, he has had 1 interception. Looking at the impact on the rushing game, you obviously get nothing for Rivers right now, since there's too few data, and I don't think Rivers is going to be rushing much anyway. But for Brock Purdy, he's at 5.8% of the rushing carry share and about 6.1% of the rushing yard share. And that might be a little smaller than it should be since he's missed so many games this season. Next, for your running backs, you have Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor, with McCaffrey averaging about 24.6 fantasy points per game, and Jonathan Taylor about 23. Here's their seasonal averages, and as far as turnovers go, Christian McCaffrey has had none this season, and Jonathan Taylor has had 1 rushing fumble. For their share, you have Christian McCaffrey at 65.4% of the rushing carry share and 64.9% of the rushing yard share, with the next largest portion going to Brian Robinson. For Jonathan Taylor, he gets the vast majority on his team, with 81.2% of the rushing carry share and 86.2% of the rushing yard share, with this next largest portion being Daniel Jones, who, as we mentioned, is not in, so that will probably even shrink even more and give Taylor even more. For your receivers, you have Juwan Jennings and Michael Pittman, with Jennings averaging 11.3 fantasy points per game and Pittman averaging 13.5. Here's their seasonal averages, and the only turnover comes from Juwan with 1 receiving fumble this season. Looking at their share, you have Juwan Jennings at 18.4% of the target share and 15.2% of the receiving yard share, and then you have Pittman at 26.7% of the target share and 24.5% of the receiving yard share, which makes him the most targeted receiver in Indianapolis and has the second most receiving yards on the team. For your next set of receivers, you have Kendrick Bourne and Alec Pierce, with Bourne averaging 7.5 fantasy points per game and Alec Pierce at 10.8. Here are their seasonal averages, and there are no turnovers, so I'm going straight to the charts, where you have Kendrick Bourne at 11.4% of the target share and 15.3% of the receiving yard share, and Alec Pierce at 18.3% of the target share and 26.6% of the receiving yard share, giving Pierce the most receiving yards on the team, even though he's about the 3rd or 4th most targeted receiver on the team. Ending up with your tight ends, you have George Kittle and Tyler Warren, with George Kittle averaging 14.3 fantasy points per game, and Warren at about 11.8. Once again, switching over to their averages, and there are no turnovers between the two tight ends. So looking at their share, you have George Kittle at 13.4% of the target share and 14.9% of the receiving yard share. It is interesting to note here at the end that the most productive receiver on San Francisco, with 26.8% of the target share and 25.2% of the receiving yard share, is Christian McCaffrey. And then over here on Indianapolis, you have Tyler Warren with 24.3% of the target share and 24.3% of the receiving yard share. That makes him about the 2nd most targeted receiver and 3rd most receiving yards on his team. And that wraps up all your individual data. Just comparing some of the stats here. You do have every ranking on the Colts offense, beating every ranking on San Francisco's defense. The one place that San Francisco can really take advantage of is in this passing rank of 4 against this allowed passing rank of 32. And they have a pretty good scoring rank. Even though the Colts have about an average allowed scoring rank, that's still a good sign for San Francisco. I think the one other thing to note here is that this passing rank is probably due to fall, due that they have Rivers now. And that's just because he needs time to mesh with the team. You'll find out who his favorite receivers are, and just a little bit more of how he's going to play. But I think that's going to change this passing game, so that could be the one thing in the Colts offense that's an unknown here. And so for that reason, I think that's why San Francisco is probably favored. But if we were going to go with just the numbers and the Colts being at home, it does lean towards Indianapolis. So that wraps up everything for Monday Night Football. I hope that you enjoyed and got something out of it, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe, and comment on what other data you want to see in the future. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the Thursday Christmas games.